here we are at Avebury Henge, and Busty's going to join us for the walk because he made a discovery in the other sector that went by unnoticed for 4,500 years.
Oh wow!
So that's quite exciting.
It's a little bit exciting.
Yeah, which is in the book. But I brought you to this sector first because it was one of the sacred ways that you could enter Avebury Henge. Where the road is now, where you can see that silver car driving by, that was one entrance into Avebury Henge. There were 4 entrances in all. Can you see that really big stone by the road?
No.
When we walk around, I'm going to show you that diamond shape because that represents the feminine. Now, opposite that, on the other side of the road, which was the entrance in, there was a tall, phallic-like stone representing the male and female essence rather than sexuality, you know, the essence, yin and yang, if you will. Now, we're stood in the outer sector here, and as you can see, the circle curves graciously over there. This circle contained 100 stones, the largest stone circle in the world. It's hard to understand what it looks like, isn't it? Here, so I'm going to show you an 18th century drawing by William Stukely, who came here as the stone circles were being smashed. Now, you're there. That's all you can see. Yep, that's the tiny part that you're in. That's all you can see. But this is what I mean about the outer circle of 100 standing stones, in which contained 2 other stone circles called the Southern Stone Circle and the Northern Stone Circle, respectively. 1.5 miles to another stone circle on Overton Hill called the Sanctuary, which little is left now, apart from concrete markers depicting where the stones were. Each of those stones were carefully picked for their diamond and phallic qualities. Yin yang, yin yang, yin yang, all the way up. Yep. For 1.5 miles. 1.5 miles in this direction was another avenue. We don't know if that was carefully chosen. I would imagine it is, because it was chosen everywhere else, the shape of the stones. And if we notice, Silbury Hill runs exactly between the two.
Yeah. So we've run out of time and we won't be able to see Silbury Hill, but I did point that out and I said to them that you talk about that because I know about it.
It's absolutely a fascinating monument. And this whole monument spanned some 3.5 miles across the ceremonial landscape. So that's how big Avebury Henge is. And thankfully, in 1724, William Stukely drew this because sarsen stone is second only in strength to diamond. It's exceptionally hard, but build a burning pit, and by that I mean a dip in the ground, you put in straw and wood, you topple the stone into the fire, then pour on cold water, it shatters like glass. It becomes easily transportable for building material, which you can see in houses. That's called Silbury House over there. So this monument was destroyed an awful lot in the 1700s, and William Stukely, who drew the model of the serpent temple, the dragon energy, said that's the head and that's the tail of the serpent, really tried to stop the destruction, but he couldn't. And thankfully, in the 1300s, the villagers did something very strange here. You'll notice that each stone has a specific outline. No one stone is the same. Yeah? Now in the 1300s, they carefully toppled the stone, so not to break it, not to crack it at all. And as they did so, they built a grave matching the shape of the stone, and they buried it. And they remained completely buried until 1920, when Alexander Keeler, an archaeologist of fame, he was the Bill Gates of his era, money man. He made his family fortune selling marmalade. Keeler marmalade, Dundee marmalade. And what he did was he bought up all of these lands and he was on a mission to restore the entire monument. Using an old-fashioned sounding bar, you know, to sound the different tones in the ground, a bit like you'd knock on a wall to hang a picture, he found all of these stones. buried in the 1300s. And then he re-erected this whole sector. What you see, this is a restored sector by Alexander Keeler. But look how good he was at finding bits of stone. Some of these were in a wall. And if we look carefully, can you see this one tiny bit that he found? This tiny bit here, that tiny bit there. He found all of these bits. That's a concrete bit holding up that stone there, and he restored his stone. Because that's a good question, because what you have is a distinctive shape on the bottom, and you have left in the earth when a stone is being removed what's called a stone hole. And he matched the stone hole to the shape of the stone. And where he found, for instance, a stone hole and no stone, he erected a concrete marker. Can you see just by the lady in the flower top, there's a concrete marker right in front of you. They're small, like obelisk stones. Yep, that's a marker stone where he couldn't find the stone, long gone, and he marks it the area by putting up a concrete flint. Yeah, right in front of you. So we don't know why they did that in the 1300s, and we have to remember, that then it was remarkable because the Catholics were supreme. This was the height of Catholicism and power of the Pope in this land, and not one church record as to why they did that. So we'll move on to further around the circle, and as we do so, we can notice that this bank, we call it a henge, because a henge means a ditch and a bank. It's perfectly flat, isn't it? If you look across the road, the henge bank undulates, doesn't it? That's because Keeler restored that whole bank, and that's what he thought it would have looked like. We don't know if it was supposed to undulate, mimicking the skyline, or to be perfectly flat. And it would have been gleaming chalk white, beautiful chalk white all the way around. Just like Silbury Hill would have been chalk white, like a big white pyramid in the landscape. Silbury Hill then. Silbury Hill has a ditch around it like this, and they think it's in the shape of the squatting goddess giving birth. Because in the ancient world you'd squat.
Right, yes.
Yep.
What was its use in itself? Was it more about an energy thing, or did it have a particular use? Because it was man-built, wasn't it? Or it was built by something?
No, it was definitely built by man because they built it as a step pyramid. So beneath that it's a 6-stepped pyramid shape like this. But the remarkable thing about Silbury Hill is for 4,500 years it's been engineered so that the water drains perfectly through. You think of that, that's just one thing about it.
Yeah.
And an intriguing thing about Silbury Hill, I was involved in experimental archaeology because there was anecdotal evidence that if you say something on top of the hill in a whisper like that, you can hear it fully at the bottom of the hill.
Wow.
So I would imagine that would have been part of a very ceremonial... Got to be ever so careful.
Very ceremonial that was.
Yeah.